Now that we're ready to start a run with the already completed pick scan list, you should have transferred it to LaserShare and then transferred it onto the Laser desktop into your researcher folder for your visit. Remember, always copy and paste out of LaserShare or copy and paste into LaserShare from wherever you're at. So right now on the live laser, we have to do a whole bunch of stuff before we can actually press go. So first thing we want to do in our scan list window, we want to go up to the top of it where it says recall. You'll click on that. The drop down menu will appear and hit recall experiment. What we're going to do now is just go to the desktop. We're going to find your researcher folder. We're going to find your sample from your scan list. It should end in .scan.csv, and then we're just going to hit open. From here, you should now see that the entire scan list is within that scan list window. And what you want to do is first hit go to on the very first spot. Hitting this go to button brings you to the coordinates that are within the scan list. We do this just to see what the focus is right now, which is our Z value. Once we have arrived to that spot, you want to go back up to the main Chromium window, and you just want to maximize the screen to make it large. Also, what you want to do, now that we're at this position and our focal length it's out of focus right now, you just want to click in here with your navigate sample tool. You just want to click anywhere and then zoom in as close as you can. You want to remember to always be looking within this red box. When you are scooting spots, before you do that, just be aware that if you move any of the slider bars, you will turn tracking off. And tracking is important to have the live video over the spot that you are looking at. So just for an example, if I move this bottom slider bar, just even any amount, a tracking turned off button or window will appear, but then it will disappear quickly if you don't catch it. So back down at the bottom of the screen, to turn it back on, you'll just hit this tracking button, which I'll do right now, and it should zoom you right back to where your live laser is actually at. So just be aware of that, and it's as simple as turning the tracking button back on. So at this point, we're just going to zoom in to the closest we can get to the grain, just so we can get a good focus. So at this point, our image is out of focus right now, and we're going to focus it onto wherever these scratch marks are from the polishing process. To do that, we're going to go up on the Chromium window over to the video and laser focus settings. So when we're focusing, you can either use these little triangles with Z on them. This adjusts your focus manually. So we can just do a couple of clicks on either side. So we'll start with going down. And you can see our picture comes into focus and then it slowly goes out of focus. So we'll go use the other one and click up and see where the focal length is. You go through it and then you're out of it. A quick way to do this without clicking repetitively is to hold. So if we hold on that down arrow, you'll see it will zoom past our focus and out of focus. And going back up, it'll do the same thing. And so now we want to just get it purely in focus. And so I'll just keep clicking down. I've gone past it. I'll go back up. I see it's in focus now. I'll go just a little bit past it and then back down. Focusing is pretty subjective. It's a little bit different for everyone, but a good rule of thumb is to just get these polishing marks more or less in focus. It won't be crisp like you're looking at a picture, but it will be very, very close. So this looks pretty good. At this point, what we want to do now is to set this focus to everything in our scan list. Because as you saw when we hit go to on that first spot, it was out of focus. So now we want to set everything to the same focal length because we polish it as close to perfectly flat as possible. There should be no pitch on any of these mounts. So to do that, we're going to go back into the scan list window. We're going to select all, and then we're going to go to this edit scans button right at the top of that window. You'll click on it and a drop down menu will appear. You're going to then hit set Z position. When you do this, a window will pop up in the middle of the screen with the current focus right now. All you need to do is hit OK, and all the points in your scan list should now have that same Z focus. To just verify it, if you go into the scan list and look at the coordinates, you'll see that the Z coordinate is now what was just presented to us in the live focus right now. At this point, you also may want to re-enable everything from hitting the space bar. You have deactivated when you are offline picking spots. And to do that, you're going to simply go down into the scan list window, and with everything highlighted already, you're just going to hit enable. And you'll notice now that up at the top of that scan list window, you'll have your total scans of 180 and then how many are enabled. So again, just to show you how this works, I'm going to disable it. And so let's keep looking at that scan list enabled value. If I disable it, everything will be disabled and it will be at 0. When everything is enabled, you should have the same total scans and the same amount of enabled scans. At this point, we're ready to just go through and start checking all of our points. And to do that, it would be a good idea to be on your select drag tool just in case you need to move the spots to a new position or to a new grain, just based on our backscatter and then also what we see on the live laser. So if we go up to our tools up at the top, we'll go and just switch to our select drag tool, and then we'll come back down to our scan list and we'll just start hitting go to on every single grain. It's imperative to do every single grain to make sure that every single shot is on a zircon. We do add a couple more spots at the end of each scan list just in case there are non-zircons shot or if it's just a poor analysis. So we will begin by going down to the scan list here and just hitting go to from the very first spot and continuing all the way down. So I hit go to on the first one. The grain will be, that spot will be highlighted on the live laser screen with a yellow dot. To move that spot, just like we were offline, you'll click in the crosshair and drag and place it onto the grain. Since this is a standard, we don't really need to position it in any specific way. Just making sure it's on a clean spot on the zircon itself, away from any previous ablation pits like we can see here, away from the edge, and away from any inclusions if there were any there. You may be tempted on, since we hit go to on this very first spot, we've shifted that spot, but you may be tempted to also move another grain, another spot that's really close to it. It's perfectly acceptable to do this, but I just want you to be aware that if we click on this next spot, we have that one selected, and if we look back down in our scan list, we have gone from spot 1 to spot 154. If you continue to just keep hitting that go to button, at this point now you will have missed 153 spots. So always make sure before moving down the list, you adjust your spot and then click on the spot that you came to this view on. So now if I click back onto this spot, we have gone back to number 1 on our scan list, and now we can proceed down. So after moving any other spots within your view, just be aware as well that when you move these spots that are farther away from the crosshair, there may be distortion from the camera itself, so that position may not be 100% true. But that is why we go through every single one, even if you move them in a grouping together. By the time we get back to spot 154, we'll be able to verify if our position right now is true or if it's sufficient enough. So at this point, we will just start hitting go to on all of our spots, and we'll be back once we're done with that. Alright, so now it's time to run cleaning shots. We'll change our spot size down in the scan list in this default line, which will be grayed out. You click on it, a drop down menu will show up, and you're going to do a 40 micron circle. And the only other thing we're going to change is our shot count from 110 to 3, so just input 3 and hit enter. Just like what we did with setting our Z position, we're now going to select everything and apply settings, all, and then we'll go to the apply settings button, click on it, a window will pop up. Right above it, make sure that everything in here is ticked. In order to do that, just hit select all and then hit apply. Down in the scan list window, you should now have 40 micron spots for everything and a shot count of 3. Before we initiate our cleaning shots, we just have to check that our beam alignment is correct. So we will move back up, and in our tools we will change to our navigate sample. And while we're up here in our laser controls off to the left, we will turn our purge on again. We will enable the laser. We will change our shot count to 1 because we just want 1 burst. and then we will change our spot size to 40 micron. Always change to the spot size that you are about to ablate in order to check beam alignment. Alright, so once we have that, we will come back into the live laser. We'll pick a salient point in the epoxy, and then we will just fire off the laser to check our alignment. What we're going to be looking for is the spot in reference to this red circle. So I'll come back up and I will fire the laser off about 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And now back in our laser view, we can see that our spot is shifted off to the right. So we will need to bring it back to the left, and we can do that by the screwdriver controls on the laser, which you can see there. There's a sticky note here that tells you what each screwdriver does. The smaller one is left and right movement. The longer one is up and down movement. Since we need to shift our spot back to the left, we are going to turn this screwdriver counterclockwise. And what you're going to feel is there's going to be some looseness on it. You're going to feel it hit the nut that's in there, and you just want to do very, very tiny movements. So I'm going to go clockwise just a little bit. I just felt it turn a smidge. Alright, so from our previous spot position here, we wanted to move to the left, so we've made the adjustment. I'm going to click off to a new piece of epoxy and fire off 3 more shots. It is now pretty clear. We still need to go to the right a little bit, so we will go back to the screwdriver and do that. Again, I'm going to use this little nubby one. I'm going to feel where it hits that nut, and then just very, very minor movements. So we'll move to another one, and we will fire off 3 more. 1, 2, 3. And now our alignment is much better. The entire circle of our 40 micron spot is within the crosshairs. We can now run our cleaning shots. We're going to go into our run scans window, and now we're going to change our pauses, even though these pauses are set from when we were tuning, so we don't have to change anything. I'm just going to briefly go through them. Pause number 1 should be 2 seconds always. Pause number 2 for cleaning shots, which is this line, should be 0 seconds. Pause number 3, 0 seconds, and pause number 4 is always 0 seconds. So once this is true, all of our spot sizes are 40 and we have 3 shots. We can then start our cleaning shots. So we are just going to hit start on our run scans window, and then we're just going to make our screen smaller just so we can observe our cleaning shots. And so you'll see that it will just go to every single spot, do 3 quick little bursts, and then move on to the next one until it's completed with all the spots within the scan list. At this moment in time, it's a great opportunity to set up the mass spec while this is running. So let's go ahead and do that.